How's it? How's it? Last week I asked you to upload some images to a pic drop gallery where we can get a chance to see your road trip photographs. You know, images that give a sense of place, sense of feeling for an environment. And I'm pleased to say that the response has been absolutely overwhelming. It's been awesome, right? So we're going to have a look at some selection of these images today. I'm going to hop over to the computer and try and get a handle on what exactly makes for a great road trip photograph. There we are. Right, now I'm a little head in the corner of your screen. So we got here, this is the fantastic pic drop layer. And I have to say, you know, even though it might seem like, oh, you would just say this because they're a sponsor of the channel, using pic drop has been fantastic. It makes life so much easier. And you can see here, these are all the fantastic pictures that people have sent in. I've gone through them, and what I've done is I have made two selections using flags here. So I've got a flag section here that says 51 out of 176 images are shown. These are images where people have actually got their name attached to them, because I'd like to credit people when we're looking at them. So we'll get onto the people, but the people who've actually named their files properly get to go first, right? So here we have a photograph by Warren, and this may seem like sick fancy stuff, but Warren looks after the Facebook group and he does a fantastic job, and he sent in a couple of images. And you know, as you may gather, I'm always a sucker for angular shapes, things of that nature, and I have taken pictures of gas stations in the past. What I quite like about this particular one is that the view is slightly different, so it's a little bit, you know, out of the ordinary, but that doesn't necessarily make a photograph awesome. You know, just having a funky approach to it. What I quite like about this is that it's an everyday view. I think one of the things that, you know, as we go through these images, you'll sort of start to see is that a lot of you have turned your cameras to objects, to places, to subject matter that is actually quite everyday. And I think that's the beauty of these things. And so you fulfilled the brief absolutely perfectly there. That, you know, I wanted to get a sense of a place, and this certainly gives me a sense of place. It's, you know, it's not a urban area and anything like that. But yeah, really, I like this, Warren. You've put in a couple, but this is my favorite. So this is Peter's image. Now, completely different change of tone and what have you. I'm getting a feeling here of it's European. And I think one of the things that is great when we've been looking at the images coming through, and hopefully you will get this as well as we go through these images, is that none of them are overtly saying exactly where they are, but you get a feeling, you get a sense. You know, I look at these buildings, and it definitely feels European. It feels quiet. It feels like it's, you know, it's a side street. Everything that's going on here just it gives me a nice little overview of where this village is, and the figure in there makes it feel a little less empty, like it's just a pretty scene. It feels like this is a place that people actually live in. I had to laugh when I saw this, because this is something that sort of is starting to sort of get hold in the UK as well. People having massive decorations during the holidays of their houses. But I like this because it's one of the things about this photograph is, and it's M. Shuern, and I can't pronounce it now. I do apologize. That it feels like it could be from another time. It feels like it's photographed on film. It is a just a matter of fact photograph of a Santa Claus, an inflatable Santa Claus, and it reminds me, and we'll see a couple of these later on, of those roadside attractions that people used to put up on Route 66, where, you know, there'd be like a giant spaceman or something like that. That I really, you know, I really enjoy this. It's just, it's actually just, it's a really fun photograph without it being, again, like something contrived or made out to be silly. It'd be great to see like a sequence of these. This is by Roger Bays. There's a little bit of a change of pace, and they've got this welcome, and there's this big bush, And I am particularly drawn to these kind of photographs because they just, for me, show a willingness of the photographer to be able to seek out an image in any sort of environment. I'm looking at this and thinking, probably, I don't know, what are your guesses as to where or what this is? So it must be an office block or something. So we can imagine it's probably, quite flat and empty and well, ordinary looking. But that little welcome piece there, that's really nice. I think that's fantastic. And I'm one of the things I don't want to really do throughout this is start making like critiques, like, oh, if you took this out and you took this, you added that or did this, then it'll make it better. Because I find when we talk like this in the groups that I have on both Facebook group and also the sort of more private community that I have running on the Kajabi website, where we jump into more full-on discussions. It runs in tandem with the cohort. There is a link in the description box below if you're interested. Is that it's not about fixing images. It's about asking questions like why. So Roger, like, what was it that drew you to this? What's going on here? Why have you focused on this color? There's yellow, blue, green, brown. They look, they're fantastic. When you start asking those kind of questions, you actually find that you learn a lot more about photography than just you starting to critique somebody. Say, oh, well, you get rid of the drain pipe and this drain pipe thing over here, right? And the aircon and blah 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 blah. That's not going to elevate the picture or whatever. The picture is fully formed with Roger seeing this happy coincidence of just the thing just saying welcome. Now you might disagree with me, and as we move on to an image like this by T Brown, that this I can imagine that if one was to put this into, say, like a subreddit or something like that, that you might get people saying, "Well, it's all about the repetition of shapes and the cleanliness of the thing." So what's happening is, you got this check here and you got that and you got this, and really these things should be center and blah 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 blah. No, right? This is I love it as it is. It doesn't need to be perfect, right? The world is not perfect. This is kind of one of my big gripes. I love minimalism on Instagram, but so many of those pictures they're just so perfect. And it's like that the world is like that. I love this. This has a lived-in look. It doesn't feel, well, it's obviously, as we go forward from here on in, we're going to be talking about AI and stuff in photography. And this doesn't have an AI, I feel. It has this kind of, it's a real environment photographed by a real person who's seen this repetition of colors and shapes and gone, wow, what a cool photo, and has just taken it. I love that. I love that idea. There's another one of T Browns who sort of snuck in. How naughty of me. So I'm going to try to have one of each. So we're going to skip over this one a little bit, but it's a very sort of different approach to the one previously. To his, as a bit of a change, and you may have guessed, I'm kind of reacting to these as I see them. This is the whole point with this. Is one of the beauties about PicDrop is I've gone through, I've flagged them. Okay, but now I can flick through and have a little look, see, and make some notes and give some thoughts. And you've seen me writing on the picture. This is all great, especially if you are involved in an environment where you have to, share images with clients and get their feedback and stuff. See how easy this is. It makes so much more of a better use of your time than emails back and forth. So, one of the things that I like about photography is that when it has a bit of a sense of, I was about to say mystery about it, but that's not wrong. But a sense of places, a sense of organicness, and what have you. And I think Benjamin here, I think you got the right idea, Benjamin. It's getting here. You're trying to, I'm sort of reading it that we've got some interesting looking buildings. There's some foreground and the cars and what have you. I feel that the issue with this is that this big bucky So I can use Bucky pickup truck, whatever you want to call it, here in the front, right? So this guy here, there's not it's not that he's a problem. Well, he is, all right. Is that you either he needs to be in the frame or out of the frame. At the moment, it's just like it's half and bits, okay, and especially because he's right so front at the beginning. That's my eye just like hits that and sort of stops going in. If you wanted to, think about how you're trying to make these photographs feel like, possibly the city looms over the small little people and their what have yous. Think about what could you do? What could you do to emphasize that, right? How would it look if you got lower? How would it look if you, made that car really big in the frame? Things of that nature, all right? So that's kind of, again, when I'm talking in the private group that we have, and once again the links in the description, that those are the questions we're looking at. Not talking about, oh, there's converging verticals and things of that nature and stuff like that. It's about prompting. So what happens if you try this? What happens if you look at things? I just want to take a little quick breather here from looking at all these photographs, just to let you know about two groups that we have. One is the Facebook group that Warren does a fantastic job of running. This is a bit more of an informal, relaxed environment. Anybody's free to come along. But we also have Aperture Allies. Now this is a bit more focused, a bit more getting underneath the hood of photography. It's a closed group, so not everybody just comes along, just dumps images and runs. People engage with each other. We talk about photographs in much the same way that we have been discussing these images today. And that is a fantastic way of really helping photographers of any level get to grips with some of these ideas that are very intangible. The idea of emotion, sense of place, atmosphere, feeling, mood. What makes a great photograph? These are the questions we discuss and try and get to the bottom of. And if you want to join us, then please, I would love to see you there. There's a 14-day free trial, just on a link in the description box below. Anyway, and now back to the photographs. It's funny, when we look at photographs often, and I've been talking about subjects a lot recently, and what is a suitable subject for an image? And I asked you when I posed this challenge to you to take a picture of something that sort of sums up a place. And the previous one, maybe for them that the car parks and the canyons of the cities sum up stuff. But here, Diego has taken this for. Oh, excuse me, naughty little burp. Diego has taken this photograph of this sort of beat up Dodge truck. If this environment feels warm to me, it feels hot for some reason. I don't know, maybe it's the sunshine, or maybe these kind of trucks in my head for some reason evoke sort of southern United States. I don't know. I can't really see on here anything that suggests a specific place. I can't really recognize the license plate. I can see there's like a little dollar sign there. But what I kind of think about with this is that if you're trying to evoke a feeling and a mood and an emotion with a place like that, and finding trucks, is to have the truck not necessarily by itself, right, but as a kind of major standpoint of this image. Look at this guy here, right? That car, unfortunately, just is really annoying in the background. But that's like a minor gripe, so it's not a major thing, right? I think this is it's an interesting sort of starting point, and I think you can work on it a bit more. Look at these ideas. Again, I'm not trying to talk about all the shadows and things like that. It's just about you have given me a sense of place, right? But how can you refine that? How can you make it a bit stronger? Right, and create a more aesthetically pleasing photograph, for yourself, or either for myself. And the way that you can answer that really is kind of, I think you need to just ask yourself, what is it, if anything, in this that you would like to improve upon, and then sort of take it from there. But I love the truck, and I love the suburban environment. It definitely gives me a sense of place. This is lovely colors here by Joe Gar. Just the feet sticking up there of just this hammock in a place. And the previous image we were looking with Diego, talking about like a sense of place. I get this as well, right? I can get the feeling from this. It feels what? What do you think it sums up? Right? Is it summary? Right? Okay, because you guys sitting there, he's in a hammock. So we associate the hammocks with summer. He's got it. It's just his feet in there, so it's like a like a little bit of a laughing kind of idea. And one of the things that was to look at this and go, do you know, that's exactly what it is. I think sums up sort of road trips and things. It's these quirky little vignettes of everyday life in its complete, sort of wide-ranging environments that we just get, a sense of place. I love that. Maybe there's a whole series of of random feet and arms and things that just sum up. What a great photo. Now this one, and now I'm seeing it bigger. Oh, look, there's comments in the section here. So John Pereira has put these in. Now I saw this one when it was small, and I thought, that feels like it's South Africa, and because of the this letterbox thing, the barrel with it, which you don't really see in SA very much anymore, because well, for a variety of reasons, but we never had one because we used to post office boxes down the road. But I love that. So here we go. Right, this is me, and John's put there some South African suburbia just for me, and he goes, always goes to Cape Town. But yes, so this kind of there's a couple of like clues here, right, that would sum up for me, where this comes from. Firstly, it is the the post box, but also we got this palm tree, this little chap over here. These concrete walls and stuff like that are absolutely 1960s, 1970s, 1980s South Africa. We had that, and this kind of weird idea also of putting plaster on a house until you get to the bricks at the bottom and doing stuff. So for that kind of feels South Africa. Lack of burglar bars there, and you see like anything. But so that's a really good example of the viewer, as in me, reacting to things in the image that, unless I think you're South African, wouldn't really mean anything to you. But this all comes together to give it a very definitive sense of place, which is what you see when you look at sort of, we're going to get onto some more sort of suburban Americana kind of stuff that nails it properly. John, thanks ever so much for giving me a bit of a laugh. Now this, I have I'm a sucker for going and looking up street or places on Google Maps, and I managed to find this. By P. Trahan. It says north and west suburbs of Houston. So one of these, this reminds me of a photograph or photographs that I took when I was there, because the street signs, I find for when we travel, they are something that breaks this almost homogeny that you get within loads of countries. When you start traveling around, especially in Europe and the UK, and and let's say English speaking countries, where everything can feel very similar, especially in built up areas, street signs break that completely. The street signs in the UK look different to the States, that look different to South Africa, and look different to Australia, and what have you. Not least because there's no kangaroo warning signs in the UK. Right. And so this, I think this is worthy subject matter. And I'm sorry, I don't know if it's Pete or Peter or Mr. or Mrs. or whatever, but if you took this photograph, I one of my feelings is that you say this is Texas, Houston, and it feels like it wants to be bright. The photograph doesn't give me that feeling. It feels just a little bit muddy and like it feels like it's underexposed, but then again, it doesn't feel like it. But maybe it's just something. But bear that in mind, that the environment, the vibe, comes so much from how the photograph looks. Now this, right? I look at it, and again, it's one of these things. I don't see this much in the UK. I see it occasionally in South Africa, what have you. But this idea, this try famous pies and cakes and dessert, pancakes, waffles, and omelets, obviously added to their their repertoire at a later date. I quite like these things. They're little snippets, and there's this guy on YouTube who documents Dan Bell. He's a fantastic channel. He walks around abandoned shopping malls or shopping malls that are about to close, and he just videos, empty storefronts and things like that. And it feels like he's being a documentarian for things that are going to get lost. And these kind of photographs, they're not going to win any awards or something like that, but they help to build up a picture to document these things for us to hold on to. So DB Thompson, I like this. Think about this though, right? Okay, when you're confronted with this again, and is the subject the sign itself? Would it benefit from if you stood back a bit and got maybe some of the building? I see there's like an awning and what have you there, and I think maybe that's your car, the little Chevy in there. But try these questions. Think about these ideas. And it's a similar sort of thing here with the Lighthouse Ice Creamery in Brisbane. There we go. It's 7 k's from my house. So, our Filippi has sort of said, look, this is something that's close to me. And I look at this, and initially I was going to say it was America because they saw creamery. This is a word that I only heard recently, like creamery, to talk about like an ice cream parlor. But anyway, be that as it may. So this photograph, have you noticed? Like a lot of people have been drawn towards signs and places, and our Felipe here has talked about bringing the kids for ice cream. So this is a place that evokes memories. And what I kind of like about this is that they're not trying to just take a picture and rely on the memory aspect of things. They've included some other bits. So there's this light here, with this is a bit more interesting. This palm tree that's growing up through the roof. So obviously they built on this awning at a later date. There's a slash of blue and things. So there's a bit of framing within framing and things of that nature. So really makes it kind of looks quite cool. Now, B Sale. B Sale. Oh, BBB Sale. You uploaded a lot of pictures, and I have to say I really like them. But this feels like it's a Robert Frank kind of picture. You've got the flag, and that's something that certainly gives me I mean, we know it's America because of the American flag, right? But that's something that sticks out to me as an outsider. When you come to America, it seems like Stars and Stripes is just like everywhere. And then there's boot. So there's a whole other level of things going on here. What a great photograph that is a sense of a place. It's America, it's just a street sign, the road, but you're actually seeing a little bit more going on there. We can start reading things in. Is this you could read it in two ways. Is this a boot giving the boot to America, like going to kick it away, right? Or is it America and we have like boots and we use those boots to control things and stuff like that? So there's a whole bunch of ways that you could read into this photo. What a great image. I really like it. I'd be interested about your thoughts in the comments, all this kind of stuff. But yeah, what a lovely photo. And once again, I've naughtily chosen two by B Cell, but there's something about this which I'll come back to just now. Again, right, Petra Hans made a comment. Is good one for the road trip. This one does have a what you call it, an accreditation. If you go into the main thing and go down the subsections on the left, you'll find that this one is accredited. I should have it here, but I'm going to say the same thing. That I said about the waffles picture. I do like this, and I like the waffles picture. They both serve a similar purpose. I think this one is a bit more visually interesting because obviously there's some more things going on and stuff. But the same idea seems to beckon, and I appreciate this is only a single image, right? But what does the cafe look like? Because this cafe feels like the building in the background, all this kind of stuff here, right? Feels like it's been reskinned at some point. It doesn't really fit with this especially weathered look. So maybe there's some juxtaposition going on there. Maybe there's something that you can look at and go, oh, this is kind of cool, right? But yeah, I really like this. A bit of jumbly kind of mismatch, and I think in this case it works. Doesn't always work, but I really like this photograph. It appeals to my sense of the aesthetic idea. Now this, a wind pump in the hot right? Okay, so much like in sort of many states in the US, in the bush, as I like to call it, in South Africa, we get these wind pumps everywhere. Now, for road tripping, yeah, okay, we're out in the middle of nowhere, and that's not always like you don't have to be in the middle of nowhere to have road tripping and stuff like that. But I definitely get a sense of what's going on here, right? And earlier when I talked about South Africa, that I relied on my experiences in South Africa to make a feel for the image. But I'd be interested to get your kind of vibe from this, right? That there's some clues in here about, is it hot? Is it cold? Right? Can we get a sense of of an openness? What happens in an open space, generally speaking, right? That would be attached to wind pumps. Okay, things of that nature. Start looking at those, right? And that's kind of things that subconsciously, affect the way that you feel about a photograph. Now, this one, and it's. I think as we've gone through, you probably find there's some images that got like the one with the boot and the flag. It works, bang, straight away, done. Okay, but then you have images like this that are interesting, but they don't quite, I think, fall into that category of like you could see this in a book. And why is that? It's not a thing specifically about this particular photograph. But again, I'm interested to hear your thoughts because I don't think there's a single answer. I think there's a single, response that says this is how you could do it. E. Smith. Now, initially, you might look at this and go, "Ah, it's America," yeah, because why? Right? It's an old American car on the road, isn't it? But if he's on the road, he's driving like a lunatic because the wrong side of the road, isn't it? He's driving on the left. So this is the UK, and yeah, it feels like it might be the New Forest or somewhere like that. But isn't that interesting how the standout subject can immediately put you into a place? Like you could think, well, this could be Vermont, or it could be one of New Hampshire, or somewhere that's kind of mountainous or woody or something like that. If you don't know the environment, but then of course you look at it and you go, actually, this is the UK. What an interesting sort of idea that sort of comes across to just really, you know, play with our minds a little bit. This is also the UK, right? Because we're well known for having big flags. Now, B Pibble, and Bruce has said, I know of only one flagpole that looks like that, and that is in Sheboygan. So this photograph. Okay, so we've got like the tallest flagpole in the world. I think it's the largest free flying American flag in the world. Okay, there we go. Now thinking about this, okay, it looks pretty tall, but where's that sense of scale? What is there something else here that could? Is there a way that the photographer could have changed this a little bit? Not necessarily to do like funky effects or something like that, but to give this a sense of place. Right, they're talking about. He said it's at their Veterans Memorial, right? So, are there other things around there that could, when you look at it, that would go, well, this is the flag at, was it Sheboygan, right? To anchor it almost in the environment. This is by Jeff. who is a long-time supporter of the channel. I think, Jeff, you think you've been around since day dot. Now, we're kind of leaning in here to more mood, right? That a lot of these photographs up until this point have been about a very specific place or some subject in that environment, signs, cars, buildings, things of that nature. This image rather is about an idea, about travel. We talked about road tripping photography, and of course part of that is the actual travel, not what you see along the way. And Ralph has said, sorry, not Ralph, because like people, but Jeff has said sometimes you just turn a corner and you see the picture. This photograph is evoking a wanderlust almost in me, probably because the road is so dominant. It's just like a big white streak that runs off into this darkness area over here and just beckons me to kind of come along. And it does that because you'll notice the shadow detail and all this kind of stuff here and here and here. It's been dodged in, right? Sorry, burnt in rather. You can't touch something. It's been burnt in to stop it interfering with the direction that Jeff wants somebody's eye to go. Similar sort of thing here with Dale Williams II. Now this is an interesting what was good processing technique. And there's sort of weird, it feels impressionistic, like lots of flat bits of paint being slapped on here, and that's kind of one of the things, right? Often when we talk about in photography, people kind of like, oh, and Jeff's picture was a good example of that. Having to have detail through the whole thing. There's like the same thing's going on here. We got no detail here now. I'm not really sure about this ethos traveler bit, whatever, right? There's no detail here. There's just the lines coming through, boom, 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 boom. So all that's quite graphic. All that's quite, strong. And then there's this thing. So I'm definitely getting a stormy feel, and like a gloomy, dark vibe on it. And there's a little car in the horizon, just kind of sort of sitting there. I would like to. I think I would like to see this without this kind of impressionistic painter effect, whatever. I don't know what it is, but it feels like you've put something on there, um, you know, just to kind of get a feel. But the atmosphere I get from this is absolutely spot on. This makes me feel like when I used to do a couple of drives up from I used to drive from Joburg to Cape Town and back again, just for work a little bit. And often you'd be driving through the Free State and you'd see these storms coming up, and you would just know, and you go, oh, I have to drive through this. And this gives me that ominous feel. So in terms of vibe, absolutely, sort of nails the brief. This we've got Peter Johnson here. We're back in the UK once again, reacting to things that in a photograph, right? So I can see that's a child's play park in the UK, and those buildings in the background, they feel like very general estates. And so immediately I'm leaning on those ideas in my head, the ones that I'm kind of going, okay, that's what I know. And there's a little pigeon coming through. Now, again, and I was mentioning about these, these images that get into a book or out of book and things like that. I feel this is a photograph that could benefit from being revisited. I think at a time of day when maybe the light's slightly different, or I like the fact that it's been photographed recently. So it's early spring. The tree hasn't gone into leaf yet. It's just the buds are just coming through. I imagine if this were misty or something, it seems like a bit of a cheap way of doing this, having a misty image. But I think there's potential here. And if this is local to you, I would suggest you do go back and maybe observe this tree throughout the coming year and see if you can find either like a series on it or of a way of evoking a mood. Because we have what we call here in UK like estates, right? So it feels like that's estate housing, or development. And then there's that. This here feels like a bowling green, something like that. So it's quite clearly like a recreational environment. How can we reinforce that? You know, Look at this. Look at those cows, steers or bulls, I suppose. The Novikov. There we go. I kind of looking and going. I definitely see the idea. Can you guys see the idea? Right, that juxtaposition between these glass and steel buildings, the Renaissance Hotel, I think it's a hotel, and these steer. And I think looking at those horns, I think is probably the right word, isn't it? At least what I'm sort of thinking. Um, and I kind of see where you're going with it, right? That juxtaposition. But again, I'm going to ask you the same question. What could you do to highlight this? I think the steer are fascinating. I mean, those horns, wow. But they seem incidental to the photograph. They feel like they're kind of, oh, I got this bit here, and then there's that bit, and it's not all quite of kind of thing. But I think if you're able to go back there, what happens if you isolate a steer and you isolate a building? So you have a steer, then the trees, then a building. Does that make it a bit stronger? Does that make it transition from a scene potential to a realized vision? Yeah. So like all this stuff here doesn't what about this? There. Oh, those steer though. Wow. We got G Novovegan. Sorry, I keep popping in thing. So M Merrick's, who I hope had an umbrella or something. Okay, so it says rainy, and one of the things that I'm kind of like looking at this is that I don't really get a sense of place or a feeling apart from the rain. Now, that's probably due to the fact that it's a single image. So it's one image, and so it's out of context, and especially we're looking at it at a number of other photographs that all that they all have, for the most part, conveyed where they are or a mood. If you think about like the road, the very black road with a broody sky, it conveys a mood, it conveys a feel in Jeff's image, and then But this one, I think, we're stuck between two places. This feels like it would be, a photograph that a lot of people who are kind of getting started with street photography will go, oh, I like the blue, and they've both got the yellow, jumpers around their waist, and they've got these umbrellas, and it's raining, and so things like that. So now, okay, so you've got that, and you kind of recognize potential. But I'm going to ask you the same question as asked the previous photographer. What can you do with this to lean into this idea of rain? Right? They quite clearly been caught out by this shower, as you can see the people in the background up there, right? Ooh, right? They are not with their brollies. And so what can we? Is there opportunity for somebody? You're walking along, or they're carrying a newspaper over their head or something of that nature, that I think just kind of makes it feel like it's more of like a photograph with a capital P, as opposed to, I've just seen these two yellow things, and then there's a bit of yellow there, and think that's enough. I want to see some mood. I want to see some vibe and emotion in this. All right. So we say E Maison. This feels like it's Italy, right? Why does it feel like it's Italy? Okay, because of these buildings. These are. I don't want to say stereotypes, because that's not the word I'm looking for here. But unlike the previous picture where there was nothing in that photograph for me to, as a viewer, to latch onto and go, oh, this is a place, or it's giving me an impression or feeling of an environment. This does, because the buildings are communicating a place to me. Now, I think, looking at this, I think if we were all subjected to, or we were all sitting in front of this building, there's a lot of potential. This sky, look at these lovely clouds. There's these these grasses. Perhaps those are olive trees, and having that kind of greeny sort of thing. So and there's the blue of the sky. So there's lots of potential again in there. And I think what the photographer's done here is gone, okay, I want to try and frame it with these telephone poles that are around. Okay, so we'll put it with the telephone poles. And it doesn't, I think, quite work. What's happening is it's not really fulfilling this idea of, like, you got the old and then the new and the juxtaposition and all that kind of stuff, like we're talking with the cows or the steers. They just feel like they're kind of in a way. And I think there's probably more that you can give a sense of, like, a modern Italy existing alongside a more ancient Italy, for want of a better word. If you kind of go back and have a little more of a think about, we talked about road signs earlier. It's a very obvious, interesting, modern addition to the landscape. Now this is maybe I've seen it. I was talking earlier about, sense, place, mood, environment. This kind of fits into a mood, a vibe, right, rather than a specific place. I'd imagine if you and I was about to say, this feels like maybe the Pacific Northwest. I don't know, right, because of those sticky out bits, or it could be anywhere. But that's kind of the vibe I get from those. But I like this the feeling, the solitude, the quietness that I'm getting from this. I think that's a really lovely idea. That it's just there. Oh, excuse me, little cough. So I'm gonna have a slurp. In my now tepid coffee. I think the processing I like, again, is there's not too much detail. There's a softness about the image, so that's that shallow depths of field coming in there. I think if everything was very sharp, it would lose some of this kind of misty, serial sort of quality it has to it. Again, I think, like the picture with the boot and the flag, and maybe Jeff's photograph of the road and things of that nature. This kind of starts. This does feel like it's made a bit of a transition into, I think, the first draft of a book. Maybe if it was all feet centered around people and people in an environment, this feels like it's the first draft image. So yeah, I really like it, and a similar kind of idea, right? A sense of place, but I think this one sort of drifts off a little bit into it's pictures of people, and I know that was the one previous as well. And I think this is where we come to an interesting discussion about road trip photography, right? It's things that you find on the road and things of that nature, or places that you go to. For some reason, I don't get that impression with this one. I don't know why. There's something about it. I think because it feels, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like it's being contrived. It may possibly not have been contrived, but it gives me that impression, and I'm sorry to sort of say that. And while there's like, oh look, there's this big fun fair at the background of like a theme park, this feels like this is the photograph over here, right? All of this. I know it's one of those images where you go to, like, context, and we want some context and stuff. I think in this case the context on the left hand side is not really adding to the photo. This is great. I love this kind of shallow depths of field in the foreground, and the figures silhouetted and things of that nature. And I think with some judicious cropping it would be much improved. But for some reason, yeah, I don't know why this doesn't. As have a couple of images. I'm sorry to Brian to put it onto your one. Some that haven't quite landed in terms of like a feel of like what a sort of think about road tripping is, but that's fine because this is what we're looking at, seeing how everybody interprets this idea differently. And it's the same thing with this, right? It feels like it's just like I don't know where it is. It feels like it's Eastern Europe. We got and I'm sorry, I'm not even going to try to pronounce this particular person's name because it'll be a disaster and I would offend you. The the thing with it, like let's say it's Hungary, okay, and so we go to Hungary. What is this? How is this different? How does this give us a sense of place to a viewer? It's much like the one with the people previously in the hands or something like that. It's either not an interesting subject in regards to like a weathered wornness or something's being collected for later years as an interesting subject, and it's not a thing that gives me a feeling or a vibe, and it's not a photograph that kind of stands and you go, "Look, that's a pretty cool photograph," right? This feels like you've got to stop and you're out there, you're looking on the street, and and there's this guy. He's sat down and maybe you'd been observing him for a while, and then he goes just dabbing his head or something like it looks like it's quite. You go, that's the moment. That's like that decisive moment thing, and unfortunately, it doesn't change anything. Think had you like seen if there were like as an example, let's say these two people have drinks in their hands, right? So they have all that's these are my water bottle things, and they were like supping along, and then somebody comes along over to this water fountain, and they have a little drink, right? That would be like a decisive moment, right thing, because then you've got some things working all together and whatnot. Here I just think that it looks like there was like a lot of things interesting to photograph. Some ice cream there, some sort of shop. This is obviously like a busy boulevard. I can see all these people, and just go and find something that's kind of interesting. Give us a flavor. Tell us where this is. Show us in a photograph. And this I think this kind of falls into that category as well. That you have it looks like a Christmas market or something of that nature. There's this little girl with these sheep, goats, lambs, whatever they are. You think I'd know? I live on a farm. Right? She's got this bucket of feed here. All right, so we got this place. What is it that you could do to make this more of an interesting image? How can you get an environment now? Some of these we kind of drift away from like the idea of street photography and what have you, but it's like, okay, or not street photography, sorry, rather of like travel photography, but it doesn't mean we can't think about these images and go, okay, well, look, we've got this. Whatever's going on in the background isn't really, it doesn't, there's nothing there that is just kind of looking worthwhile. I think in the evening it might be better. So we've got this young girl. She's feeding. Maybe it's your daughter. Maybe somebody who you know, or just a random person. But let's think about what could you right. So you either do. Could you get down like on a goat's eye level? So I've started calling them goats. They are sheep. He says with all confidence of maybe they're not sheep, right? Could you photograph up through one of these slats that is like here, or here, right? What happened? I don't know if you were to photograph from the other side of the thing. What happens if you photograph down this way? Although obviously that's in the way. So if you were to photograph that way, right? All these kind of things. What if we focus on the hands and maybe they will stick their noses through? That I think that's kind of where if you look at a scene like this, what can you do to improve it? See, now that we this is where I come back into this issues problem of road trip photography kind of things that you find by the side of the, I can say by the side of the road. It's a word, it's an awful definition, right? But I interpret this as absolutely in kind of road trip photography. And I don't know why, but it does. So defanning the cherry blossoms that are falling on this Toyota. It's one of those images. You go, look at that. It's just like, isn't that nice? What an interesting photograph. And I desperately want to be able to say why I think this is road trip photography or why it evokes a certain mood or an emotion with me, but I can't. It's very strange, isn't it? Right, when you sort of struggle. But I love this, and much to I think a lot of people's annoyance, I'm going to say I could see this in a book, but again, don't ask me why. And I'm sorry about that because it really doesn't help, does it? Right? But I love this. It's a simple image of a a thing that's caught the photographer's attention and they've just photographed it. I think one of the things is like it's a matter of fact kind of way that it's just one of those moments you go, that's I quite like that. And I don't have to sit and really look at it deeply to understand why. Now here, I'm also going to say this for some reason. This is quite clearly a road trip photograph. Fort Courage Trading Post, right? And Michael Summerall has said this reminds me when my family traveled across the country in '79 to move from Portland to Louisiana. So it is road tripping. But for some reason, it doesn't land with me the same way that the other one does, despite the fact that I love this kind of environment, right? This maybe it's like Texas, New Mexico, something like that. This barrenness that reminds me of like the Free State and Northern Cape and stuff in South Africa, and I love that. I love that environment. But for some reason, this it just I don't know why it doesn't land with me, and I think it's matter of factness, which is weird because the previous photograph was matter of factness. It was like bang, just straight on interesting thing. Whereas here, I think what this is doing, I want to see more. Right, you've got Fort Courage Trading Post, and this mashed up wagon, and there's the sun bleached posts and all that kind of stuff, and it's like you're teasing me. You're teasing me, Cummins. I want to see the other things. And again, this is kind of, I think, when we look at things in isolation, it's very tricky. But I'm looking that and kind of going, do you know what? That minivan thing that's in the middle, like, go away, right? It's just like, this is kind of cool, but I want more. I want more. I don't know. Again, sorry, that's very poor way of explaining it. But there's something in here. I want to see more of it. This feels hot, doesn't it? I think this is the yellow things of this nature, and the building that's being taken down and put back up again, or not put back up, but being taken down in the blues and what have you. Visually, there seems to be, it seems to lack a little bit of something interesting, and I think like a quirky. I would say I say quirky, but I think what I'm sort of driving at is like you see everything's like here is the same except there's like this. I don't know what that is, right? And if depending on your screen, it might be a bit tricky to find it. But that is, what is it? That's the sort of thing. I think if you were to like focus in on all this kind of stuff, right, with this thing here, that might just give more of a sense of not a sense of place. Because if you go for a sense of place with this, I think what's happening is that you're trying to isolate a subject, and that's good. But at the same time, we're kind of losing its where it is. What is going on? Is this, is there something just to give us some clues? It's getting the same as, with the previous image. It's like that one teased something for me by suggesting there was a thing here, whereas this one is kind of like it's almost it's holding back because it's like it's not showing me something, which again is a really odd way of discussing a photograph. But it's like this truck. I think this needs to sort of maybe go back to the drawing board and have a little think about how can you get the sense of place. I feel like a dusty Sunday, a quietness. There's sort of the rubble. I definitely get like a stillness just because of the lack of people. But beyond that, it just kind of it sort of lacks a little bit of something. Right, so the city of Los Angeles, and this is Patty's. Okay, so it's a bit of a a little place on the side of the road. We know where it is. We could look up Patty's. We know it's in LA, and it's right next to the American Literary Historical Society in a place called Toluca. But beyond that, it feels, I know, like it's hit. If you talk about like a place, a sense of place, then you've hit the brief, right? But if I think, okay, so Patty's, is this photograph a picture of Patty's? Is it a street scene within the city of Toluca, right? Toluca Lake? Because at the moment, it just feels like it's kind of all over. I get the impression that you either frequent this establishment or you saw the sign or something like that. So think about more than just like how could you either make this part of a bigger street scene or focus in on Patty's and keep it as Patty's itself and make that interesting, make it visual. Because at the moment, it's all about this crosswalk sign. That is the whole the whole thing, and then this chap coming across. So I think again you've recognized something, but how can you build on that? How can you make it into something a little bit? And I'm gonna get hit from all sides here because I'm gonna go. This does feel a bit more like it's a sense of place. Now, the difference between this and Patty's, the previous photograph, if we go back to the previous photograph, so this is Patty's and some other things. The street sign, these cars, this guy, this thing in the background, although that's his thing, this what have you. And they all seem to compete with the image. Whereas this particular photograph by Wataru Ebihara, it's about the building itself. We got this 803 East. So I like that. I've always liked places where you could put a number on it and stuff. It's a shame we can't see the street name, but there we go. And there are elements in it, so like the fire hydrant and these signs, these cars, this tree coming in here and this, right? But they're not dominating with the thing. It feels like it's all just part of the scene. Whereas with Paddy's one, it felt like they were kind of dominating. I don't necessarily think this isn't like an amazing photograph, like a standout, kind of like, oh my God, we'll go in a book or something like that. But it's at least, as was the Paddy's one, and everything that everybody has shown up until this point, at least you're looking at things and trying to find objects, scenes, subjects to photograph. This idea, I like this image. I like the wetness, right? Because it feels very different we haven't seen much rain stuff apart from the people with the brollies and things. I like that. I think if you were possibly, I just think a bit more aesthetically, that maybe come back in an early evening when the lights are on inside the building and maybe it gets reflected off the side here, stuff like that. And maybe that would be with Patty's as well. Maybe it comes alive when it's darker. We haven't really seen anybody photographing at night. But I get a feel in this place. And again, I can't quite put my finger on. Maybe it is the wetness. Maybe it is the 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 suburbia feel. This doesn't. I know this is probably suburbia, but for me, and I appreciate this is just once again it's an input thing. This doesn't feel like suburbia to me, right? And so because it doesn't feel like that, I'm finding it difficult to put a feeling into that. Whereas this, I can recognize the feeling. It has. I can get that. And it's a similar thing with this photograph by B Nash from Myrtle Beach in Southern California, not Southern California, South Carolina. Um, I love the bird, right? And that's kind of cool. I'm not so sure that this gent here on the side. I think if he were doing something rather than just standing there with his hands in his pockets looking at the heron, is it a heron? All right, something like that. It would be kind of cool. I think So this is we talked about people finding things that are interesting to photograph, and where that difference is between well, it's somebody's daughter or somebody feeding the goats, and then there's this bird. So what's the difference, right? Because you could crop it down here, right, and say, look at this, but look at the backlighting on side. What a wonderful wildlife photograph. But now it's given a bit. I think we pull back a bit. You've got a place. You've got these big. I'm reminded like Joel Meyerowitz book. Totally forget. His name Golden Light. I think it is. Yep. He did up in the like Cape Cod area. It will come to me as soon as off camera. Something like that. I wonder, if there was like that guy was like, he's here and he's like fishing or something like that. Then it's kind of cool. I mean, it's and the lighting's beautiful, and I think the way you process the image is beautiful. I'm not, what is this? It's down here, but anyway, definitely gives me a feeling. It's that light. The light is helping. You see how important light is with all these images, and here we go. Light. B Wolf has been looking at the light here and stuff like that, and really, um, I'm having a very difficult time seeing what this image is about. It doesn't give me a feeling or a mood. I think you've recognized wherever it is you are, there's some light and things like that, and you're working on it. But unlike I think Jeff's photograph with the road and the one with the ominous clouds and things like that, where there's lots of dark shadow area, the idea there was something in that was giving us an idea about something to feel. Whereas here, I'm kind of looking. I'm going. It looks like there's a sock. It looks. Oh, is it like a packing box or something? Maybe somebody's packing up. There's somebody over here. Or it's a store. This is kind of where the problem is, right? You see how I'm kind of like I'm really looking at this and I'm not figuring out what it is that you're photographing. It might be my screen, might be the fact that obviously it's a dark image and there's a light like looking right by, but for a casual viewer, they're gonna look at it, go, I don't get it, I don't understand, and move on to the next thing. Right? So I think maybe you think about what it was that you're trying to get across there, or at least trying to focus on, and make that a bit more obvious and easy to grasp. I had to laugh when I saw this one by Biscuit Eater, The Awful House, Sarah. Right. So this, this, sorry, it's an example once again of me reading into my own experiences and transplanting that onto an image. I like the photograph because it reminds me of an event. It reminds me of being in Florida and driving down West Lumsden or wherever it was in Brandon, and it's all like Steak and Shake and KFC and stuff, and there was a Waffle House, and I said to my friend, like, why do we ever go and eat there? She's like, it's the Waffle House. Ugh. But we eventually did, and I was like, oh, it was a bit, whatever. Anyway, so I'm kind of like thinking about that, but let's go back to the image, right? The image itself. so because I've got all these things, I'm prepared to make allowances for it. So I kind of go, oh, this is a bit thing, but I don't see that. I don't see the Coke can and things like that, right? But as the photographer, as biscuit eater, right, has come in here, okay, and you're photographing over the top of the building. You're trying to give a sense of space. The light, the palette, I think works quite nicely. I think this is an interesting thing that I'm noticing within my favorite road trip photographs is that they have a soft color palette to them. They're not contrasty, they're not punchy colors, and even if they're at the middle of the day, which this sort of, given the light that I can sort of the shadow here, feels like it's the middle of the day, although albeit it's overcast and that haziness, they're all very soft paletty kind of stuff, which is interesting because a lot of my personal work right now is extremely contrasty. But if I'm looking at this and going, okay, I think I see what you're doing with the car. So I don't know if it's necessarily coming off because you especially if you live in America, you see these things all the time. So either it needs to be like a very straight boom representation, and it's devoid of any sort of influences. So like the strip mall in the background is not there. It's just the Waffle House. Or I think you need to kind of lean into to what's going on here uh, with reflections. Make it something. But I think you just sort of caught between sort of two places and saying, well, look, I've included a car in front of it. And it feels like it's your car because the door's open, right? It doesn't, it just, it feels like you're being a bit lazy. I can see it like gnashing your teeth, you lazy bee. But it's something, yeah, I think there's more here. And I think you've got the ability to find something more. And this kind of also similar falls into the similar sort of idea. You now, okay, obviously it's not a Waffle House, but let's say S. Skinner has now gone inside to a diner, and I get the impression that you are trying to show the whole thing and get more of a feel or something like that. But there's I don't have the photograph to hand, but there was a guy who I'm currently mentoring, and he showed me a picture of inside a diner, and it conveyed a feeling of a diner to me, right? And it was in a similar event. Now I forget exactly how it did, but I think what was happening was that he'd focused in on some parts of it, not individual, like a little bottle of ketchup or something, but like the counter, right? And I think here you might be better served with something like that. I think I, I'm going to imagine that you are sitting here. You went into this diner and you were sitting at this table because this feels like there's a table and there's a table there, right? And you sat and you went, "This looks pretty cool." We got the lady behind the bar. There's this Coke machine. You got this Made Right sign. Is that a chain or something like that, or is it place? Or the Coke light? There's this kind of 1950s Route 66 kind of memorabilia sort of things, to try and harken back to that kind of American graffiti period. And you've gone, oh, this actually might like take a cool photograph. And so you take it and it doesn't land. And it's like, well, why doesn't it land? It's like, okay, well, I think firstly, it's just it doesn't have an atmosphere about it. I think that's kind of probably number one aspect. And that's because the light just feels it. On one hand, this is really bright here, and then this is really muddy here, and things. I'm not talking about like balancing the two out, but lean into them. Either you could, I mean, you could if you'd expose, see where the cash register is in here. And that's quite bright. It looks like there's some sun coming in. So if you'd exposed for that, and maybe change the viewpoint and stuff, because these are all going to be quite dark. But then you see what this all these kind of bright bits, let them loom out of the darkness or something like that. It is something. I mean, it's ideas to sort of play with, but yeah, hopefully that gives you a platform to move on with. Okay, so sense of place. Okay, it's I'm not going to mention it because we know when this was. And I have again my own thoughts about these sort of things, um, and I kind of feeling this once again. I think okay, fine, it's road trippy. You could say you've gone to meet some people and things of that nature. I'm I think it's it's good that you're trying to include everything in there, the little Tyke's sand pit and the things and the bouncers and the kids interacting, and looks like she's playing powder cake or something, and always people sitting on decks and what have you. um and the feeling that I get from this is sadness, and that's again as a personal idea inputted onto this, because I think I think it was all a very sort of sad time. And once again, this if this were like a series of images or something like that about people dealing with all this kind of stuff, then I think it would make a different image. But at the moment, it just I wonder if it'd be better if you were like down low. It feels like you kind of like stood up and what have you. Yeah. So this is Shuren, I think. Okay. So a bit of a driving through this. This feels like it's kind of like a slightly large-ish town that maybe fallen on hard times or something like that. You've got some train tracks and things, the power lines, and I once again, this is the kind of thing I'm sort of somewhat drawn to. And all I hear in my head when I look at this is like choo choo, like old way things. It feels quite quiet for some reason. I don't know why it makes me feel quiet. And I look at the photograph, and again, it's kind of got that soft. It's like contrasty, but not bright sunshine. But it's not this punch like everything seems to be a little bit muted. Now, I'm not sure if you guys are actually doing this on purpose. Like you're just muting things down in terms of the color palettes, but it makes me feel quiet. Like this color palette, the yellows and the sorry the greens and the reds and things of that nature. It it suggests there's yellows in here and things. It suggests a little bit more of an upbeat thing, whereas I don't get like an upbeat feel for this. I get a very sort of static feel. And I'm sorry, I'm not being negative about this photograph, but it it affects me in a way that I don't quite understand why it affects me. I got some ideas, and I'm finding it difficult to process. So I keep jumping back and forth between images, but I wanted to make sure that people are thinking I'm just not just dissing on this photo, right? It's like I think there's something if you're looking to capture these events, and it can be for any sort of family, sort of thing like that. It's one thing to say, "Oh, I'm just going to get like a big image and get everybody and and things of that nature, see what's going around, and to layering." But I think if you change your perspective, if you think about maybe more like this guy's like looking at here. What happens if you then shoot through these two people here? But anyway, I'm sure we'll move on to the thing. So that processing. So you've got this building. I Earlier I mentioned about like with the Waffle House and some other things. It's like I think either you kind of like do something really kind of cool with them, or you look at them in isolation. I think this is one that wants to be in isolation. This building, especially because it says like novelties and something like that. I think like a photographer like William Christian Berry, go and look, it says William Christian Berry. He just photographed a building. I think the same with this. Depending on the view, what happened if you could photograph the corner, this sort of corner of the building, and things like that. So I think it's because the power plant in the background or the transformer plant doesn't do anything for me. I think it makes it feel a bit noisy. I know you may be trying to split the frame and stuff, but I think this is one time when you really want to kind of focus on individual like this, right? This is L Davies. Now, not specifically. Again, this feels like it might be the sea or something. I don't know. I don't have no idea what this building is. It looks interesting. I don't necessarily get like a sort of a road trippy kind of vibe off it. But then again, this is because this is one of the first images we've seen that's at night, right? So it gets a strange sort of idea. As a photograph, I think is quite interesting. I've kind of you're sort of certainly, what did I say? Like kind of focusing on the actual building itself, sort of isolating it. And I think if you were to look at that, I know I don't usually kind of sort of say like take this out and take that. I think just in this case, right, those two lights are really they're being a bit distracting. You might also have been able to change just with your viewpoint. But yeah, just it's a kind of it's a cool photograph. I feel like it's definitely nighttime. I get some solitude. It definitely doesn't feel like it's windy or anything like with the wind pump ideas. Yeah. So that it is of a place. It is evoking a cold. We can see it's cold because of the snow, right? But what I don't get is a feeling of that cold, right? Just think. I mentioned the wind pump image earlier. There were some signals in there beyond my own experiences with the environment, and some of the other places we mentioned about like feeling hot, feeling cold, feeling windy, feeling quiet. This doesn't give me a feeling, and I think on the reason why is this big black thing. It's contrasty lighting. That like that those trees have just gone. They're like black, right? and and it doesn't convey anything to me. It's just like it's a big black stripe through there. Sorry, smack the mic 'cause I was waving my hand around and something. I just want to feel cold. I want to feel the wind coming off those hills and biting my face, right? And I feel that you can do this by making that image the palette soft. There is like some of the other things we look at, like the Waffle House and all that kind of stuff, and it was like a soft palette. Do that. Find an average exposure for the scene, okay? And if you have a camera that is able to take like a spot meter reading or hold a reading, what you can do here, you got a whole bunch. You got the water. You got this, which is whoa, that is bright. Okay, and then you got this straight through the middle of the frame, and all these spots of very brightness, and the camera's just going, wow, jeez, hang on, right? And so it's exposing for that stuff, and it's leaving this shadow area just poof, right? Take your camera, oh, all right, and then just meter off your hand or something like that. As long as your hand's in the same kind of light, all right, and that will give you like a kind of an average-ish reading for the scene, and you can use that as a starting point to kind of find an exposure that sort of has a decent balance. It might be the exposure factor ranges too much, but it's good, and I think that would go a long way to making this feel cold, because at the moment it doesn't. It actually feels quite warm, but we want that feeling. I want that coldness. Geez, come on, man. I love snow. Right? Maybe go. Brr. Dragon Milanovic. I like the loomingness of the building. Right. This earlier we talked about like a sense of place and a feel and a mood and a vibe. Now I think there's a couple of things. Firstly, I look at the photographer's name, Dragan Milanovic, and I think Eastern Europe or something like that. And then I look at the image and it feels Eastern European for me. I don't know why. In fact, no, I do know why. Okay, because it's this lamppost, right? This stuff that feels like there's kind of like industry infrastructure around the whole way. These pipes that run along here. Those are all sort of subtle things. And then there's this looming building over the top. That and it's kind of echoed with a couple of things. Now that gives me a feeling. It gives me a mood or something like that. And you've noticed it doesn't have to always be, I think, a very specific happy kind of, but it gives me a sense of mood of a place, of a feeling. Like this one, I want to feel cold, and I'm not getting the cold with the kids and stuff. But this one, I'm really not feeling something. I'm not feeling something. This I'm just kind of going, "Do you know what? I like I like the look of it. It conjures up a feeling, right? That there's it feels, if I'm kind of thinking stereotypical, like, you know, kind of Iron Curtain sort of stuff, that it's that darkness. It feels like a metropolis kind of vibe. And the fact that you got that lamppost in front of that building like that, I think is great. And I don't think this will work in color. I really think black and white's probably the right one. Okay, right. So B. Thompson. Now earlier you were talking about the street sign with the not street sign, the road trip sign, the funky shack or something like that. And I said I wanted to see more. Okay, so here's similar sort of thing, but I am seeing more. I like the sign. The sign itself with Sinclair with the dinosaur, and which I find this hilarious, right? Then it's like an oil company. We're going to use dinosaur because, you know, the irony. What is irony, right? You know, we're going to go extinct because, well, but anyway, I like all that kind of stuff. And I see what's going on with the sign and what have you. I have to say, I I I've I'm not averse to the wide angle square. It is interesting. I would want to see more like this because I'm sort of looking at this and thinking about what I would have done if I was confronted with this, and I feel like I would have done like a Walker Evans kind of thing, like very straight on, and it's just so maybe get, you know, maybe there's somebody there because there's the building is, wow, it's amazing, right? So you've got all this kind of stuff, you know, and I think it does give, again, it's that kind of this soft lighting. This is a bit more contrasties than some of the others, but again, this is kind of muted palette. Maybe this is a thing. Maybe we're getting closer to the secret of road trip photography. Who knows? But there's something about it. Oh, do you know what I'm doing? You know what I'm doing? I'm doing what I tell people not to do, which is trying to find things wrong, right? To say you can fix this, whatever. And that's bad because there's nothing wrong here. And that's the thing with all these photographs. There's nothing specifically wrong with them. They need some tweaking in certain places and what have you. And I think this is really nice. I would be interested to see what it's like in black and white, but I do like the color palette. Okay, so this, okay, immediately, like, Alan has taken this photograph, and it does evoke a time. I can hear the crack of the plump of the ball against the bat, even though it's not. I mean, I can't really see that it's a baseball game, but we know culturally, we know it's a baseball game, and you're kind of going, okay, I'm getting a sense of place. Maybe you've been there, and you've walked up. Maybe there's a hill, right? And you've kind of gone. Now, if I look at this, there's sort of two ways that I feel that you could approach this. One is doing either like maybe a kind of Norman Rockwell kind of approach. So that would be maybe people down on the bleachers going, yeah, go get home run, yoo-hoo, you know, sort of thing, right? With this lovely sky and the signs or something like that. Or you're separating the thing out because in my head, I think I've seen a photograph where it's kind of like, oh no, it was Bill Bryson book. I was reading about Bill Bryson. He was driving across America. And he said, you know, you drive through Midwestern towns, and when they had like Friday night football or something like that, the entire town would go watch football. So it was like a dead town, and then just people at the football stadium. And I think what I'm sort of thinking here is if this hill goes all the way around, right, or if you could get up taller, like you get the baseball diamond to go off, and then you make like Jeff did with him, all these shadows, all this super dark, right? So it's like everything else has boiled down to the baseball diamond, you know, something like that. But I think there's a lot of scope in this environment to find photographs like that. You could, if you could get up onto this thing here, which looks like it's a BMX track or a loading bay or something, there might be a potential there to do something similar but facing back towards the diamond. All right. So Alan J. Murphy the second. Um, Funnily enough, I think this is this This feels like it would be kind of like this maybe 1960s, 1970s road trippy kind of stuff. And I think way back to the hammock when we started this odyssey. And if you stuck with me through the hour and a half, then thank you ever so much. That you've recognized you've got these four people with their brollies, and you've got the red and the blue, red and the blue, right? And I think if you crop this, okay, like that, get rid of all these guys here, right? There's a much stronger photograph there that feels quirky. You know, like with Hammock, it was feet and stuff like that. And I don't think they're about to drop their brollies, so they think, you know, they're sort of special because of different sizes. But that feels like it's something. Maybe observe them for a little bit. They might do that. It's an everyday occurrence kind of thing that looks a little bit. I'm not going to say quirky again, but looks a bit weird. And I think there's something positive, but it's let down because there's other stuff around the edges that kind of intruding. I'm thinking, and not so much like this lot over here, but these two fellas here behind this lamppost, whatever it is. Yeah, they're not doing you any favors. Clockwork Orange. Immediately, I think this Diedrich Santema. I think Clockwork Orange is seen where Alex and his droogs are in the underpass. Definitely get a feel for this. I feel this is more kind of like, and again, this is where we find this weird sort of like overlaps. Like, what is street photography and what is road trip photography? And you know, is it about a sense of place and emotion? And I'm thinking there's been two camps. Certainly for me, as we've been looking through these images, that there's been the the environment thing, scenery, and you'll notice been actually the distinct lack of like any sort of major wide scenery, something that you find along as side of the road or something that's caught your attention, and then or in your travels, and then there are images that are based in a city, and this is based in a city that feel I don't they just have a different feel to them. Maybe it's because certainly for me have city feelings like underpasses and your parking lots in cities and skyscrapers and stuff. They're not for me that unusual in my normal life. But buildings out in the west or something like that, or you know, trees, cars with apple blossoms, with cherry blossoms falling on them and stuff like that. They are out there. I think you know, like looking at this, I it's a cool looking place. I don't think the left hand side of the image. I think there's like two photographs here. You got the left hand side and then you got the right hand side. You know, I think together on I was about to say together on the same plate, but together on the same image, they kind of lack it. But yeah, try one or the other because there's definitely there's like you get two for the price of one. This kind of you know, when there's a sea law, trust the bum. You know, okay, so there's people on the beach and stuff like that. And yes, it does conjure up a feeling that we're on the beach, and that's because it is what it says on the tin. You're on the beach. There's under an umbrella, stuff like that. But and I'm going to ask you, C Law, and everybody who's watching, does this make you feel hot or cold or whatever? Does it give you a feeling about the place? You know, if you look at a beach scene that we looked at earlier, like you know the guy on the bench, that felt cold, that black and white with the building on the background. The picture that right at the beginning of the truck that felt hot. This kind of feels in between, and I'm going to come back to what I said with the exposure with the gent with or the mountains where I said I don't feel cold. I want to feel a temperature with this one. I want to feel a mood, and I'm not feeling it from this. It's not about the cropping or something, which I think in this case, what I might want a bit more space around it. But there's nothing in here that really gives me a temperature, environment, atmosphere sort of feeling. there's just something about it. I think I think you need this kind of back to the drawing board sort of thing. And I don't know if you like, if you, I appreciate it might be tricky. If you don't know these people, like, sort of coming around to the front of them, starting to photographs, it might feel a bit, hey, what's going on? But think about it next time you're down on the beach. Think about that idea in mind. Can you up your exposure just a little bit, give it a little bit more brightness? Can you include the sun to have, can have things being backlit? Can you meter if the sun's like bouncing off the water? Things like that to test out ideas. Yeah, so Ubo Pax, Pex. So this is the Philippines, and it's and I'm going to say a similar sort of thing that I said about the atmosphere and the temperature. Now, I get this is indoors, okay, but I'm also intrigued about the roof. It feels like it's about to cave in, right? So this feels like it could be a bit ramshackle. You said it's on a roadside eatery, right? But there's nothing about it. Could you stand outside and photograph in? Could you get something? At the moment, I think what's kind of letting the picture down is the inclusion of people, funnily enough, right? So imagine if you are, right? So let's say there's maybe they all get up and they leave some plates on the table and stuff like that. And so you get rid of them, and you get rid of these go away bottles, right? Then you're focusing on this bit here, and it has this kind of emptiness sort of thing with the religious symbol, like people are there, so there's suggestions. Right now, it feels just like it's a little bit busy, and my gut is the inclusion of the people. Try it the next time. If you live in the Philippines, and I'm going to imagine that you probably do, try that next time. Try photograph these places that have stuff on the tables, but they don't think, and make the religious aspect, these shrines, this iconography, the main part of the image, with some of the, excuse me, foreground as just a sort of replacement. And then we have Udo's God Against, as I said, we want and go through. So I said earlier that we would do something kind of funky at the end here, and we have got to the end. I haven't shown everybody's photographs because those are the ones that I could at least put some names to. But I have within PicDrop, you are able to sort the images by likes, and I did say to you could like images if you wanted to. And the person who got the most likes was B Cell. This isn't a competition or anything, but with this photograph here, and based on everything that we talked about throughout this epic adventure into road trip photography, think about this, right? It's it's an interesting thing. Okay, so the car is unusual. It's an old car, it's a bit rusty. So there's some visual aesthetic interest. The thing, the image has been photographed in a fairly matter of fact sort of way. So there's nothing funky, there's no wide angleness and things of that nature going on. It has some atmosphere. It's misty. Okay, it feels quiet. There's, as we've gone through, I think that's a feeling that absolutely, for me, it seems to be dominant in a lot of roadside photography, and not just in stuff that I've shown you here, but if I go look at all the other books about road tripping photography, they often feel quiet. It's simple. It's not overtly of a specific place, but it gives us an idea of place, right? And I love the processing. I think in the black and white, I'd be interested to see what it would look like in color with that muted palette that we've been talking about. Because I think there's a muted palette in, just yes, all round really lovely photographs. So B Sale, I really, that's a wonderful image to finish off with.